are the Niners still a playoff team? Here's why I asked that question. At the owners' meeting last week, a lot of people focused on Jed York's comparing the current quarterback situation to Joe Montana and Steve Young, which was ridiculous. But that's kind of like a distraction. It really doesn't matter how Jed York compares, I mean, like his perception of the quarter. I guess it does. But what matters is Jed York's perception of the team and his explanation of why they didn't make a big splash move in the offseason. He said, you know, sure, we were a couple plays away from the Super Bowl, but we also were a couple of plays away from not even making the playoffs. His point was that, like, luck factors in a great deal. You can't just say, well, the Niners are a top 4 team in the NFC in the league because they made it to the NFC Championship game and therefore need to go for it. Like, from his perspective, there were a lot of scenarios last year where the Niners missed the playoffs entirely. And then how would you react in the offseason based on that? Like, really, the main reason the Niners made the playoffs last year is a couple of things. One, the Saints lost Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. They were down to like Ian Book and who else? Trevor Siemian by the end of the season. Had they just had one of Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston for a little bit longer, they probably make the playoffs over the Niners. The Niners are a running back driven team, as we saw in 2019. They go as far as their best running back, and they need an explosive running back because their best blocker is George Kittle on the edge. As good as Elijah Mitchell is, he's not getting out there. He's not explosive. So the Niners needed to replace Raheem Mostert last year. It took him half a season to do so. Deebo Samuel did it in a part-time basis, but the Niners don't want to give him more than 10 carries a game. The Niners, to be the team that went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they need that Raheem Mostert player. And everyone's like, oh, well, easy to find. The Niners haven't been able to replace him, not full-time. So it's interesting to look at it from Jed's perspective. Is this really a play? For what he's saying is like, hey, don't be so sure we make the playoffs this year. Just because we made it last year, a lot of things had to go our way. And so now look at where the Niners are. From Jed's perspective, a team that squeaked into the playoffs last year. A lot of things had to break their way. And now they've lost 2 of their better run blockers on the offensive line. Laken Tomlinson, Tom Compton, no replacement for either one. They lost their best running back, Raheem Mostert, no replacement for him. He didn't play last year. Still, he's their best running back, no replacement for him. They lost DJ Jones, replaced him with Hassan Ridgeway, but not an upgrade. Lost Arden Key, no replacement for him. They're going to lose Jason Verrett. They did replace him with Charvarius Ward, who's not as good as Jason Verrett, but he'll be healthy. Lost Jaquiski Tart, no replacement for him unless you count George Odom. Lost K'Wan Williams, no replacement for him. So you've downgraded significantly at the offensive line, especially in terms of run blocking. You're already bad at pass blocking, except for your left tackle. You still don't have a replacement for Raheem Mostert unless you're willing to make Deebo Samuel a full-time running back, which they're clearly not. They'd rather give him 3, 4, 5 carries a game in the regular season, not 10 to 15. They need someone who can hit the edge explosively 10 to 15 times a game the way Mostert did when he was healthy. They don't have that guy. Not even trying to get him. They're just focused on special teams. Also, they haven't named a quarterback. They have a kid who didn't play last year or the year before that. And they have Jimmy Garoppolo. So they have 2 quarterbacks they don't trust. They're bad in pass protection at 4 out of 5 spots on the offensive line. They've downgraded at run blocking on 2 of the 5 spots on the offensive line. They still haven't replaced Raheem Mostert. They downgraded. They lost their best interior run defender in DJ Jones. They lost their best interior pass rusher in Arden Key. They lost their starting strong safety, their starting nickelback. And they squeaked into the playoffs last year. Is this a playoff team? What's more is last year they had a much easier schedule. Last year they played the AFC South, Houston, Jacksonville. This year they play the AFC West, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Broncos. That's brutal. Not to mention the NFC West is really tough. Remember, this team was 3-5 last year before Deebo Samuel got really hot as a running back. Is he going to do that again this year? I mean, he's going to get paid big time. He probably played through a bunch of stuff that he wouldn't normally play through last year just to get that big contract. Is he going to do that again? I don't know. I think it's really interesting. It seems like on paper, this is a team that squeaked into the playoffs as a wild card team, is taking a definite step back this offseason, transitioning to a quarterback that has no experience, and they're not setting him up for success. They didn't play him last year. They haven't upgraded the offensive line. They haven't upgraded the running back position. They haven't gotten him a deep threat. They got him Ray McCloud. That's what they did. That's the only thing the Niners did to help their their first-year starter have an easy transition to the NFL. I mean, if you didn't root for this team, you'd be thinking, man, is this a 7-10 team? Is this a 6-11 team? I mean, what if Deebo Samuel doesn't play running back at an all-pro level this year? What if he misses time like he did the year before? This team is as good as their running back position, and they just downgraded their run blocking. What is this team? Does Jed even expect to make the playoffs? Kyle's never gone to the playoffs 2 years in a row. It seems like they're almost resigned to not make it. Like, yeah, we could. But, I mean, we almost didn't make it last year, so just temper your expectations. I mean, that's kind of how they're talking. I mean, is it really fair to expect this team to make it back to the NFC Championship game when they have a $27 million backup quarterback on the bench, didn't spend that money on impact players? You lost 5 starters, and you were a wild card team last year. I don't know. It seems to me like this could be kind of a down season. And what a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo fans are setting up is this team is going to go as far as Trey Lance takes them. Baloney. This team could go 7-10 next year with a good season from Trey Lance, who starts slow and improves the entire time because he didn't play last year. He could have a good first season as a starter. He could be better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and this team could miss the playoffs. In fact, the way they've set up the offensive line, downgrading it at multiple positions, it seems like this could be a 2020 season where it doesn't matter which quarterback you start, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, getting hurt. I mean, Trey Lance got hurt twice last year. Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt 3 times last year. Now the offensive line is worse. I mean, maybe the Niners need to keep both quarterbacks. Maybe both of them are going to play this year. I got a bad feeling about this year. Everyone's just sort of assuming the Niners have reached this standard of goodness that they can sustain. Really? That hasn't been their past. This is a team that has injury issues every single year except for last year, apparently. So for this year, for them to make the playoffs, they're going to need Deebo to do what he did again last year. They're going to need Kittle to stay healthy, Bosa to stay healthy, Trent Williams to stay healthy. I don't know about that. I don't know. Just don't get your hopes up too much. The Niners could definitely win the Super Bowl as long as Deebo Samuel is the best player in the league and he's super Deebo. But if they don't want him to play running back anymore, if they move him back to wide receiver, it's a running back-driven team. Who is the most replacement? Is this team a playoff team? I'd like to hear what you think. Eugene says, isn't there something wrong with the narrative that Lynch is losing the trade value for Jimmy G? 2 NFC championship and 1 Super Bowl appearance isn't worth the second-round pick. It was a decent era move on. Yeah, you already got enough return for Jimmy Garoppolo. Forget the pick. Damn you, Grant. You got me feeling like they sabotaging. LOL. It's not that they're sabotaging. It's like, it seems to me, the 49, pardon me, they went to the Super Bowl. They got extensions. Ever since they got extensions, there's been no urgency. It's like they've been planning. They got the they got the 6-year extension in 2020, and all of a sudden everything's been about 2023. As soon as they got a 6-year extension, they're like planning 4 years down the line. And they've kept themselves competitive. I mean, they weren't competitive in 2020. They're competitive last year. What are they going to be this year? I don't know. They're clearly looking down the line, though. They're planning for the future. So, and they're not saying that because they want you to go and pay money at the stadium. Next presser, Grant, please ask him what the F.